Hey guys! So today on my way to work, I figured that I would talk to you guys about something that has been requested a few times, and that is my pregnancy story. So, well, obviously with Sebastian, because he is my only kid at the moment. First, I have to go get gas and then coffee. So I literally live off coffee. And then on my way to work. And it's not very sunny out, but I don't know why, but unless it's night, I feel like I need sunglasses on. I found out that I was pregnant with Sebastian. I kind of had a feeling before I was pregnant with him. And just like, you have that feeling like something's not right. I felt like oh, this video, just a forewarning, might be way too much TMI, but just so you guys know. But I was nauseous, having like all of the symptoms of my period without, bleeding. So I remember looking at Jeff and being like, I'm gonna get a test because I think I might be. And we weren't necessarily trying for a baby, but we weren't really doing anything to prevent it. It's kind of one of those things that if it happened, we'd be excited and stuff, but if not, then no big deal. And because we wanted, like, we knew that we wanted kids together, we knew that we wanted to get married and stuff. So I found out I was pregnant and I was very scared because, like, that's a big thing and you never know how you're gonna actually be as a mom. I've always wanted to be a mom, but it's something completely different when it's actually happening. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm pregnant, I'm going to have, like, obviously a pregnant belly, and then, like, giving birth was something that terrified me. I was scared. I mean, I was excited, like, I was obviously happy to have a baby, but I was terrified. And so then I went to make my first appointment, and they told me that they couldn't schedule me until the start of my second trimester, and I was like, I feel like that's a really long time, but I guess in most cases it's not really a huge deal. So then I think it was maybe a week later. I don't think it was even a week. I ended up throwing up blood. So I was freaking out. I was so terrified. Jeff was trying to save his time for appointments and stuff, and for when the baby came. So he's like, if you need me to come home to go with you, I obviously will. I was like, well, let me see if I can find somebody else to go with me first. So I, like, tried calling my mom and like my sister and everybody, and, like, nobody could come. My mom actually told me not to go to the hospital. But I didn't feel comfortable not going because I had never been pregnant before. I knew throwing up blood wasn't obviously normal. So Jeff came home and we went together. So I'm sitting there for a very long time, and they confirmed my pregnancy and stuff, and then they moved me to a different wing. And I have, like, this anxiety about, like, I'm fine with needles and stuff. I have 3 tattoos. I'm fine with needles. I'm fine with getting shots. But IVs, I hate IVs, and I think it is because you are restricted more when you have an IV in, and I panic. So I was very uncomfortable with the IV, and we were there a while. They did an ultrasound ultrasounds and stuff, but we didn't get to see it. And so then the doctor comes in and she looks at me and she's like, so you have a bicornuate uterus. Now, I had no idea what that was. And she was actually phenomenal. She was a phenomenal doctor. She had a great bedside manner. She told me that there, it does increase your chance of miscarrying, especially later in pregnancy. And it also increases your chances of premature labor and chances of having a breech birth, which, I mean, in the United States, they don't really deliver breech, so you'd have to have a C-section, which is something that I did not want. So, I was panicking a little bit, and she's like, when is your doctor's appointment? So I told her, she's like, oh no, you cannot wait. You have to go see them, like, now. And so I called the doctor's office, and they gave me a little bit of trouble with scheduling an earlier appointment, but I got one scheduled. And the doctor at the hospital put me on, like, bed rest. She's like, how long do you need to, like, be off of work for? You really need to relax. Like, you need to take it easy. And we were actually supposed to go to visit my brother and his wife and our nieces. And that didn't happen because of getting put on bed rest and taken out of work at the very beginning of my pregnancy, too. Like, I was only 6 weeks in, you guys. I was not far along at all. I was like, no, like, I already have time off. Like, we were supposed to go visit my brother, but that's fine. I have like a week off of work, not a big deal. I can just use that. So I get into my first doctor's appointment, and Jeff went with me to every single appointment. And, which I'm so thankful for, because it was, every appointment I was so scared that something would be wrong. And it was nice to have him there if that were to happen. And it was nice that, like, he wanted to be there. He wanted to hear the baby's heartbeat every time and stuff. But anyways, so my first doctor's appointment was awful. Had a very bad first impression of my doctor. And, like, he ended up being amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better doctor to go through this with. But the first impression of him, I did not like him. Like, he was nice, but he just talked about miscarriages. Like, there was no chance I was having this baby. And because my levels were so low, and he's like, if your levels don't increase, then he was talking about having to perform, like, to make me miscarriage if my body didn't actually do it. And that's something that nobody ever wants to go through. Like, it's such a hard thing to go through. I know people who have gone through it. I've personally never been through it, but it's not an easy thing for anybody. And I know how I felt just simply getting told that I was going to have one, that I can't imagine actually having one. So on that note, I'm gonna run and get Starbucks. Okay, so I have my Starbucks. But yeah, he was talking about miscarriages a lot, so much that I thought that I was going to get sick. They had to grab me a garbage can. It just, not good, because at that point, I'm already coming to the fact of, like, oh my gosh, like, I'm pregnant, I want this baby and stuff. So that's a terrifying thing to continuously hear for an entire appointment. So, but I had to get a ton of blood work done, and he actually off of his personal phone to make sure that I got the results quick, which is awesome. But so he called me and he's like, your levels jumped up, and he's like, so you should be good. So Jeff and I were obviously over the moon to hear that. And then I think like an hour later, I went into the bathroom and I bled so much. So I started freaking out because I'm like thinking that this is a miscarriage and stuff. And I started crying in the bathroom, and we were trying to get a hold of the doctor, and they're just like, yeah, like go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital and we're waiting there forever. I don't know if you guys know this, because I didn't know this before having a baby, but they have like a vaginal ultrasound that they do when the baby is like younger. So that was extremely painful because now everything is like raw. Totally TMI. Everything's raw from bleeding so much. And the ultrasound lady felt so bad that she was like, the baby's heartbeat is great. And she's like, I'm really not supposed to show you all this, but I feel really bad that I'm causing you pain. So she was like pointing everything out for us, which was an amazing experience. Like that part was an amazing experience. And so at that point we knew he was okay, which we didn't know Sebastian was a he, but we knew the baby was okay. So apparently when the placenta tried to like attach to the wall of the uterus, it caused a bruising, and that's what bled. It's not super rare, but it's not super common either. And they were just like, you need to just take it easy, don't lift heavy things, which I worked at box lunch at the time, so I'm like, I have to lift heavy things. A lot of times I'm there by myself. I'm not gonna not pull my own weight. So that's when we decided, like, well, I'm gonna stay home with Sebastian anyway, or with the baby anyways. So we decided that I was gonna stop working in April. I gave a 2-month notice because we just didn't want anything to happen. We were already, right from the get-go, we were having problems. So we didn't really want to push our luck. It's just like, I was super nauseous through most of my pregnancy. I felt so sick. Well, I didn't get sick. I got sick when I threw up the blood, and then I got sick during my second trimester. There was one night I was just like violently ill. And like anytime I moved, it's not good. So that was bad. Kind of calmed down a little bit as far as like scares and stuff went. So then we find out like Sebastian's a boy and stuff, and I went to the doctors, and he was like, oh, like he's head down. And I was like, yes, like this is great. I will have to have a C-section. I think it was like 1 or 2 weeks later when, and he's like, yeah, he's sideways with like more like breech position. And I was like, you're kidding. Like, this is ridiculous. So they were talking about having, at this point I was 8 months pregnant. He was like, well, I'm gonna have them set up an appointment. We're gonna try to like turn him. So I was like, okay. And then the next day I started having really, really bad pain. And Jeff was like, oh, are you okay? And it was like the next night, I think, after my appointment. Or it was like a day or two later. It wasn't long after. And he's like, are you okay? Like, do you need to go to the hospital? And I was like, no, like, I'm sure it's Braxton Hicks. I'm sure it's fine. And we ended up sleeping on the couch because being in an upright position rather than flat on my back felt better. So I slept like sitting upwards on the couch because it was painful. And he's like, it took me forever to fall asleep, so much pain. And I was just, no, like, it's just Braxton Hicks. I'm fine. And Jeff's like, are you sure? Like, I want to be sure. And I was like, no, it's fine. So then he went to work the next day. I went grocery shopping. And I was like, so I'm getting like, cases of water and all of these things, and like carrying them up because we lived on the second floor in an apartment. I'm getting all of these things, and I was like, oh, walking around makes it feel a little better. Which, side note, so I got so many dirty looks when I was pregnant. And I don't know if it was because I just looked super young, or if like Jeff and I weren't engaged at that point. He actually wanted to propose before, like, our plan was to get married before having a baby. Obviously, that didn't turn out that way. Like, he like had this thing of like wanting to like go to where we met and propose there, but obviously I was decently pregnant, so I'm not gonna want to climb a mountain. So he waited to propose. But anyways, so I don't know if it was like because we weren't engaged yet, or if I just because I looked super young. But like, people were giving me dirty looks, mostly older guys, and like people would stare at me as I went to lift cases of water, and all I'm thinking of is, if you're gonna watch me do this, why don't you offer to help me? Not that hard. But anyways, so I'm like, oh, well, like, walking around made it feel better. So then we went to the mall because walking around made it feel better. And I was still in a lot of pain. We had to sit down a couple times because I was in so much pain. Jeff went to the garage, and I was home. I still
stay in the left 2 lanes.
So I was like, well, I will just, well, I guess we'll go just to be sure, because I was in a lot of pain. So I went, and I very calmly walk in. I'm like, I think I'm in labor.
Stay in the left 2 lanes.
Everyone was so shocked, like, that, I was in labor, because I was very calm when I walked in and not showing my pain at all.
Continue onto A890 East.
So they bring me to, like, the first, like, I wasn't really in a room yet. I was, because they needed to make sure what was going on and stuff, so I didn't have, like, my own room yet. So this nurse, oh my gosh, this nurse, she was probably the worst nurse I have ever had. So she put my IV in, and she nicked my vein, so blood spurted everywhere. into labor within the next, I think it's 10 days or something like that. So the test came back negative. So she's like, oh, well, like, the test came back negative. I think they're just Braxton Hicks. You can go home. You don't have to finish their IV bag. And I was like, okay, well, just, like, get me out of here then. So then she leaves, and then I start bleeding. A lot of blood, too. It wasn't a little bit. It was a decent amount. So now I'm freaking out because now I'm bleeding. And so then she comes back in and she's like, well, you're bleeding a lot, so you just want to monitor it. And like my cervix was closed. So I wasn't going, as far as like she thought like I wasn't going to have a baby. As far as we all thought. So, at least that day. So then she's like, well, we'll give it a couple, like 2 hours. And then we'll check how you're doing, and then you can go home. So I get moved to a different room. This nurse brings in the breakfast menu. And I was like, I was told that in like 2 hours I should be going home as long as everything's okay. She said, oh, well, you'll probably be in here. It's like, what? So then I'm 8 months pregnant. They're pumping me full of fluids. They're telling me to drink. So I have to pee a lot. And because I had to pee a lot, she has to keep coming in and removing the pads off of my stomach. So, like, she was like, you have to pee again. You have to go again. And getting annoyed with me, like, I'm sorry. I have a small bladder to begin with. And
in 2 miles, take exit 7 towards NY-7 Eastern Troy.
So I was getting a little annoyed by it. And then I told her, like, hey, like, I'm not really bleeding anymore. Can, like, the doctor come in and check me? Because in my mind, I'm like, well, they said I'm not having this baby today. I'm in pain. I hate hospitals. So I would much rather be in pain at home. So she decides to check to see if my cervix is open. And she does it very roughly. And she's like, well, you're not going home. Looks like you're having a baby. And walks away. She walked out of the room after saying that to me. So I'm starting to panic. My eyes are filling up with tears. I'm just distraught. And the doctor has to come back in and check again. And she's like, yeah, you're dilated. And then they figure out that the baby is breech still. So then I have to have a C-section. The nurse got yelled at because she wasn't supposed to check me. So then I had to have a C-section, which I went into the bathroom, guys, and lost it. Like, not that there's anything wrong with C-sections. It's just, it's not something that I wanted to have. A lot of people, they think that C-sections
take
are
the
really
exit.
No big deal, but they are a major surgery. Like, my doctor told me after I had the C-section that it is the third most invasive surgery right after brain and heart surgery. It is not an easy recovery. And, because it's major abdominal surgery.
In 1 mile, turn right onto Console Road.
Because he wasn't the one to perform it. And he was on it, like, so great. And he's just like, what happened? It's like, I don't know. I went into labor. Because I literally just seen him. He's like, oh, yeah, I think you're going to go full term. Joke's on everybody. But Jeff was really scared because it's a major surgery. He got to go in with me, but they wheeled him in. So obviously he didn't see anything. And we were, because Sebastian was early, because he was 6 weeks early, he had to go into the NICU. So he was in the NICU for 2 weeks, which was a blessing and a curse, just because I was recovering from a C-section. So I was in a lot of pain. He had to help me for a while, for like going, like even just going to the bathroom.
To the lights, turn right onto Console Road.
Walking, like getting out of bed, because I was in a lot of pain. But my doctor was in the room with me when I was having the surgery, and that was awesome because he told me
in 3/4 of a mile,
exactly,
turn right
like,
onto Belltown Road.
He's like, well, you're shaking a lot because of your hormones getting released, plus the medicine they have you on and stuff. And he's like, it's completely normal. I didn't even realize that my arms were strapped down until Jeff had pointed it out. And they have you on the skinniest metal slab. Like, it is terrifying walking into that room. But obviously, like, we didn't want Sebastian in the NICU because, like, that's our baby. So we went and we visited him because after we were at the hospital, we lived very, very close, but I had to walk up and down stairs, and I wasn't supposed to be using stairs at that point. So we went a couple times a day, and we stayed for hours. And we did his feedings and stuff. Sebastian was in there for so long because he wouldn't eat. I think the biggest thing that I actually disagree with the NICU, because like the nurses in there were great, but they wanted him to finish bottles within
at the next lights,
minutes.
Turn right.
And if he didn't finish them, they would tube feed him through his nose, and then he would spit it up. So I think that kind of, I mean, I'm not a professional, but personally, I think that put him behind with like trying to get him to eat, but I get that they wanted to make sure he got his nutrients and stuff. But it was a scary thing, and I know people that,
at the lights, turn right onto Belltown Road.
For far longer than 2 weeks, and just 2 weeks is hard. Or like it's much like more serious things, and it's scary.
In 1/4 of a mile, turn right.
You have no idea what to do with it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, am I gonna break this thing? You can't even hold his head up. And I remember clipping his nails because he was a preemie, he was tiny, and I remember clipping when I went to clip his nails for the first time.
Turn right.
The little gloves were too big; they wouldn't even fit his hand. I clipped his finger, and it started bleeding and
You've entered the
out,
car park for your destination.
Yeah, luckily everything turned out okay, and it was just such a crazy experience. And I am blessed that, you know, he was healthy, and I am actually very thankful for modern day medicine, because if you think about it, guys, back in the day, the chances of Sebastian and myself being here, that wouldn't have been very high. So I am very grateful that I'm okay after everything, that he's okay. And yeah, so that is now Sebastian is almost 19 months, and he's healthy and happy most of the time. He has his cranky times, but he is also getting his molars, so that is probably a pretty big reason. But I hope that you guys enjoyed my pregnancy story. I would love to hear your guys' if I have any fellow moms on here. And if you guys ever have any requests, you can absolutely message them in the comments down below, or shoot me a message on Instagram, or email me. And if you like this video and want to hear more like personal stories and stuff, definitely give it a big thumbs up. And definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure to have your post or your like bell on. And until next time, I love you guys. Bye.